Welcome to Black Cat. I'm Tony, that's Samra, and we just watched the drama starring Robert Pattinson and Zendaya. No last name for Zendaya, just known as Zendaya, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a movie where I'll just say right off the rip, just go see it. You really can't talk about this movie without spoiling too much. We'll try to do like a short spoiler-free section here, but really, I'd imagine you guys all either have seen the movie by this point or know what the twist is, but we'll try and just cater to those people at the start just in case. But just starting here, going into this movie, not knowing anything about it other than it's about a couple that's about to get married and there's some weird tension going on in the trailers. I was completely blown away by this movie. I went into this expecting to like it. I thought it would be just like a good, fine movie that comes out. This is my favorite movie of 2026 so far. Now, there's some heavy hitters coming out later this year that will probably, I hope, will pass it. But for now, like this is a very solid movie to be at the top of the list in
It's a standout.
April. Yeah, it's a heavy standout. And so I know you were excited about this movie.
Yes.
And you did have it spoiled for you. Without talking about the spoiler, how did it hold up? How did it meet your expectations?
I was so worried. So in context of the spoiler, I randomly saw it one day. I think, Twitter's feed now, especially once you like something, everything fills up with that thing. But I noticed it randomly one day, just stumbled upon it on accident, and I was so worried that it was going to ruin the experience for me because it's such a big plot point.
Yeah.
And I was worried, and before this, I was so excited for this movie, but I was still excited then, and I'm happy to report that despite knowing the spoiler, I still had such a great time with such an anxiety-inducing movie. And like you said, it's also like my top of the year so far. And yeah, like I had a feeling I would like it going into it just from the marketing alone. I like the look of it. You can't go wrong with Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if I should say this right now, but I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. So,
I originally gave it 4. I bumped it up to 5.
Oh, nice.
The more that I thought about it, and this is the type of movie that I feel like I've said this in our previous videos, which is funny because we've only done like 3 videos so far, and I've probably said this on every single video, but it just tickles my brain. It just tickles my brain.
Yep.
This is a movie where the more you think about it, the more connections and layers you peel back, and it's a very complicated, nuanced film where I've already seen on Twitter, and someone tweeted that this movie is going to be a great literacy test because you're going to see some really dumb takes.
I saw somebody say you should take like a first date to go see this movie,
it's a great first date
all
movie.
That you need to know about each other.
Hey, this is a movie that genuinely, we watched The Revenant recently,
we did.
And I left that movie being like, wow, my life's not that bad. Like my life's actually pretty good. This was another movie where I watched and I was like, man, I'm so grateful for my normal relationship. Like we just have a great normal relationship. Like this is. There's some crazy stuff that happens to people.
Yeah.
I also meant to ask you, what's the worst thing you've ever done?
Oh,
but
God.
You don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer that on camera. But hey, you know what? That's just something that we're bordering on spoilers. Let me hold off before we get to the spoiler section. Other things that I wanted to say about this movie that are spoiler free. One, I mentioned that it's a very complex, nuanced movie. There's so many bits and pieces where you look back at it and you think about it a little harder and you go, oh, wait, there's like another meaning to that, or it connects to this thing. Love movies like that. You know what else I love?
What?
I love movies that challenge me on like a personal, individual level to not to sound too dramatic, but like reckon with my own feelings and my own because everyone's hypocritical. Everyone has these different contradictory beliefs in your head.
Some with superiority complexes too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it challenges you to sympathize with someone who you maybe your knee-jerk reaction would be disgust.
Yeah.
You'd be appalled. You're disturbed. But it kind of challenges you to, can you humanize this person? Can you look deeper into it? Is there actually more to this story than you think? And I just love stuff like that. I know we disagree on this specific piece of art that I'm going to talk about, but part of the reason why I love The Last of Us Part 2 is because it also does that in a different way, challenges me in the same way. And so this movie, very few things in common with The Last of Us 2, but it did remind me of that feeling I had where it's like, ooh, these are like difficult feelings that I have to navigate now. And I really love when a movie can make you do that.
That's interesting. Ooh, I didn't think that you'd be connecting this with The Last of Us Part 2. Fascinating.
Yeah, hey, I make it happen. I make it happen.
Oh my God. Something that really stuck out to me about this movie, kind of in a similar vein, but maybe not, I don't know. And I mentioned this to you. It's just, I love a movie that will have me locked in the whole time. There's not a single moment, even in the kind of quieter moments, you're still just like, it does such a good job of just keeping you tense and
Yeah.
just you feel like you're just going through it, but you're not, but you kind of are.
Oh, you are.
You are.
This is the one of the more uncomfortable movies I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Great to see with a crowd because everyone in our theater,
100%.
you could just feel it was tangible. The
Yeah.
tension, the uncomfortableness, and it's also a movie that makes you laugh in an uncomfortable way.
Yeah, you hear some awkward laughs and like that's what we heard throughout some certain scenes.
Yeah. I saw people tweeting saying like, you know, it was almost like the audience wasn't sure if they're allowed to laugh at some of the stuff that happens in this. And there were even moments where we both talked about, we're going to start getting into spoilers here in just a second, but we're like, some people in our theater laughed and we were like, I couldn't bring myself to laugh at that. Right. It was too dark. I get why it's comedic, but like, this is just a really challenging movie, I think is the best way to say it. And it made me uncomfortable. It made me laugh. Yeah. It really just, the last 24 hours, I've just been thinking about this movie nonstop. And if you can do that, that means it accomplished something.
Exactly.
And I really enjoyed it. I would highly, highly recommend it. Go see it. And now as we're about to get into the spoilers, go see it even if you know what the twist is, because something that I bet you were happy to find out, maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't, but the twist happens like 15, 20 minutes in. Happens first act. The rest of the movie all centers around the aftermath of that twist. And so even if you already know that, spoiler alert, what happens is Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, Charlie and Emma, it's the week of their wedding. They have one final dinner with their the
maid of honor.
The maid of honor. I almost said the bride of honor. That's literally the bride. And the best man.
And the best man, yes.
They're having one final dinner together. They get a little drunk and they ask, hey, you know, like they start going around the table, what's the worst thing you've ever done? And everyone has their own stories. We'll get into each individual character there because I think that's really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
But it gets to Zendaya's character, Emma, and she says, I almost did a mass shooting. And they're like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
She's like, joking. Yeah.
Yeah, I almost shot up my school. And they're like, and you start to realize that she's being serious. And it's like, well, what do you mean you were close to shooting up your school? Like, what? She's like, yeah, I brought the gun to school. And so, as you can imagine, if you were about to marry someone and then you find out that they were almost a mass shooter, there's a lot of complicated feelings that come with that. So the rest of the movie is them going through this process of like, you know, you're following Charlie, Robert Pattinson's character. Is he still going to go through with this wedding? They're finalizing all these different things for their wedding as he's grappling with these feelings. There's this different like cascading effect of like, well, now her friends know, and you start seeing more of her history, her backstory. And to get into this, like, to me, the initial reaction I think everyone probably had when Emma reveals that is disgust. You're appalled. I'm like, I thought the rest of this movie genuinely was going to go in the direction of her being a psychopath. She's going to progressively get more aggressive and either attack the wedding, attack Charlie, do something like that. And I was pleasantly surprised that it didn't go that direction at all. And in fact, it actually paints Emma it humanizes her and a character like her in a way that was very responsible and I think mature and just thoughtful. It didn't go
respectful too.
Respectful. It didn't go for pure shock value. There's some shocking moments, but it had something to say.
I was worried it was going to be what's that word? I always forget about it, but it's like it's not glamorized.
Yeah, it's not gratuitous. It's not exploitative.
Yes,
yeah,
exploitative. Thank you. I was worried it was going to go down that route too, but
yeah, I was very happy that it portrayed her that way because as the themes of the movie unravel and everything, you get multiple scenes, multiple moments. Kind of, I know some people can criticize this type of stuff, but almost spelling out the themes of the movie to you. Robert Pattinson's character at one point says like it's kind of an American problem, and that's something that we both felt right away. It's like this is a very modern American movie. These are issues that nobody 15 years ago had to deal with, right? Like the idea that your fiance almost did a mass shooting. Like what? That's not a thing that existed in our, just a few years ago. And it's a very modern, contemporary film. And it's very unsettling themes. And what Robert Pattinson's character says that is very thought-provoking, I thought, is like, well, and it's dark, but if there's a mass shooting basically every day in this country, how many people thought of doing one but didn't? It's probably thousands and thousands of thousands. And so I want to focus on that dinner scene. And if you have any other tidbits,
Yes,
feel free to
yeah.
jump in. But
The dinner scene with the caterer where they're figuring it like right in the beginning. Is it that one?
yeah, where the
Yes,
twist
okay,
is
yeah,
revealed.
Yeah.
Because we hear the worst thing that each person has done. And I think this is really like the core of the movie is how certain people are, they give them that forgiveness and sympathy, and other people don't get that. For example, the Alana, how do you say her name? Alana Haim?
Alana Haim, yes.
Alana Haim character. Everyone's going off on her, and rightfully so.
Rightfully as they should. Oh my god! Real quick, can I talk about?
Take over.
2
Rachel.
minutes into this movie, I turn to him and I say, I cannot stand this woman because the movie starts out. We get our first. I know we said we were going to focus on the.
Oh no!
Scene,
well, this is it. This is it. Each character, yeah.
We get the very first impression of her is she is with Zendaya and their coworker. I forget the coworker's name, but essentially they're helping out. Like Zendaya's character Emma is getting thoughts on what she's going to say in her wedding speech, and it's paralleled with Charlie. But they mention how Emma is a crier; she cries a lot, and the first thing that Rachel says is, "Oh no, don't do that, or don't mention that. You look ugly when you cry. This is supposed to be a friend and your maid of honor, but that." Immediately, and I forget she said something else, but it's just
and we could actually, instead of just focusing around the dinner scene, we can just kind of go through some of these scenes too, because even right there, like you get some before it's revealed who Zendaya was in her past, like you get a couple moments where they're kind of teasing her, where she's like, like he was my first crush, and they're like, first crush, like what did you not like what
right?
What
You're
were you
28.
doing at school?
What's
You're
going
28.
on?
What? And then she says something else too that's very like demeaning about like her not having friends. That there's a very direct moment later, but she implies something else during this too. And it's clear that Zendaya wasn't very popular when she was young, right? Like there's something weird going on there, and you get the vibe that Rachel is a bully. We find out that Charlie was a bully as well when he was in high school or middle school, I believe. Cyber bullied someone into moving. That's the worst thing that he had ever done, which they gloss completely over that. Completely gloss over what Charlie did. That's horrific. You bully someone so bad that they have to change schools. And I mean, like the thing that stood out to me, and I texted this to you. We watched the movie together, hung out, and then when I got home, I texted this because I was thinking about it. When Charlie reveals that, they're like, "Oh, you were only 14. It doesn't count. It doesn't matter. Your brain hasn't even fully developed." And then Zendaya's like, "Yeah, when I was 15, like I thought about this, and they're like, oh my god, you're horrible. What? I'm supposed to feel bad for you because you were bullied or whatever." And it's like, well, how come she's not? And a kid as well.
To be fair, I'm on the Rachel hate train. Rachel was the one that really got that react because we see Charlie. He's kind of not sure if she's joking, but then he's shocked. Also trying. Yeah, he's shocked, and then we have Mike is his name, right?
Yes,
Mike. I kept writing Matt.
It is Mike.
Sorry, Mike. Shout out to the actor.
That is Rachel's husband or boyfriend. I don't think they're married.
No, they're married. Yeah.
Oh, they are. Okay,
Rachel's
husband.
And the groom, not the groom.
Charlie?
No, Mike is the best
man.
I always want to say the best groom.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was it? Yeah, so Rachel's the one that she's the one that kind of starts yelling, and Mike is trying to calm her down. Charlie's over there in the corner trying to grapple with everything.
Yeah.
But that's what stuck out to me too, like with again, not to be on the Rachel hate train, but
be on the Rachel hate train. I think she's
meant.
I think she's a character who's meant to be hated, and I think that she is by far a worse person than Emma. And we can get into the details on that too. We'll break that down a little bit, but just to continue through that scene, we find out that Mike, the worst thing that he's ever done, which Rachel just kind of forces him to say, clearly isn't comfortable saying it. She forces him to say it. Worst thing that he ever did is one time he was with an ex in Mexico. Dog came up to them and it was attacking his ex, and he kind of used her as a human shield. And I find that scene really interesting because, and I know, we our boys Fish Jelly talked about this. All right, I'll just name drop them. We love that channel. They mentioned this. I'm going to steal their whole flow for a second. But I thought this was really interesting because Mike's character in action is his crime, right? It's the act of him not doing anything to protect his ex-girlfriend while she was being attacked by a dog. He stood by and watched.
Right.
That's what he does this entire movie. Rachel is on a mission to destroy this wedding. She sabotages it at the reception. She is being a horrible friend multiple times throughout this, and Mike just kind of lets it happen. His biggest crime is not doing anything. Was she a friend
ever?
She was not a friend ever, and we find out too, just to talk about that very quickly since we've referenced it twice. Again, Emma, Zendaya's character, had no friends growing up. She didn't have friends. Actually, her only friend, we find out, died in a car accident. Very traumatic. And we'll talk about, we kind of glossed over the school shooting
Yeah,
part.
I know.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
It is an awful thing,
It
and,
is,
and we
is.
do have thoughts on that. But like, we found out that she didn't have many friends, and so naturally, when she meets Charlie and Mike had been friends for years. Emma meets Rachel through Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
She's the maid of honor. That doesn't usually make sense, right? Like most
Right.
people probably had other friends, and so that lets you know, like, oh, she must not have had many friends growing up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we find out what Rachel did. The worst thing she ever did is,
oh my god,
by far the worst thing of anyone
horrific.
in that.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if Emma had gone through with what she planned on doing, it would be worse. But Rachel,
oh my god,
locked a mentally disabled person in a closet of an RV in the middle of nowhere. And then when they started searching for the boy, his father asked her if she knew anything, and she said she didn't know anything because she didn't want to get in trouble. They ended up finding the boy. He was fine. But when you compare that to what Zendaya didn't do but had planned doing, it's so much worse. And it's also the fact that, like, so she was Rachel, I'm talking about here, was more than willing to allow that kid to die if they hadn't found him. She wasn't going to say anything. She deliberately made a choice because she tries to say, "Oh, I was just acting impulsively, blah blah blah." Well, you weren't acting impulsively when you actively chose not to tell them where he was, and you knew that it took all night. They had a search party going for him. He could have died, and she did nothing.
And he didn't put her in a dangerous situation where she had to do that to fend for herself or anything. He just took her out there because I guess he wanted to hang out, and she started feeling weird or whatever she said, and she decided to do
Rachel's
that.
an awful person.
And then she's recounting that and telling that story, and you can just tell she does not care. She's laughing. She, I think, mentions it later on in the movie, but she's like, "Oh, he's fine. He's fine." It's just like, and you're over here with your superiority complex yelling at other people saying, oh my gosh, I have so many thoughts. I can't.
She is so hypocritical. She thinks that she's better than everyone. And the reason why I'm breaking down all their stories really quick is because I did have, I had some thoughts. I had a point on each person, but I had to explain it all so that it would make sense. So here's how I broke this down, right? I looked at each character and I thought that I put this together pretty well, but you guys can be honest with me if you think I'm not cooking. Charlie, this to me is a good person who throughout the course of the movie makes some bad mistakes, but he does take the time to reflect on himself, own up to it, and try to be a better person. He makes a lot of mistakes as this movie goes on. We see him cheat on Zendaya, low-key sexually harass his coworker, just completely spiral out of control. I have thoughts on Misha as well.
Yes, real quick, you could say that this movie is his worst thing that he's ever done. Everything that plays out.
Yes, this movie ends up being the worst thing that he ever did. And I should mention the Misha character because I'm actually going to bring her up in this too. Misha is Charlie's coworker, and at one point he confesses to her everything that's going on. She tells him that the worst thing she ever did was cheating on her previous boyfriend, and she kind of doesn't really regret it, but that's the worst thing she ever did. And then just moments later is about to cheat again. And I know Charlie came on to her, but she was ready to go. She was fully ready to go. And so I had to give the context for that too, because she's included in this. So Charlie, to me, is a good person who makes bad mistakes as the movie goes on and does have the self-awareness to reflect on that and try to at least become better. I would say that he never reflects on the fact that he was a bully in school and, obviously his fiance was bullied. Emma was a bad person who changed for the better. Genuine transformation in this movie.
Yes.
Rachel is a bad person who doesn't know that she's bad. Rachel does not reflect. It's impossible for her to change because she refuses to reflect and consider any of her actions.
Because she thinks she's better than everyone.
Exactly. Mike, I know I'm yapping, but this is it's all tied together.
Go off.
Mike is a good person who allows bad things to happen. And so when I say he's a good person, I mean, I think he knows better. It's clear that he has some issues with what Rachel's doing. He clearly knows right from wrong, but he chooses not to act.
He's a pushover.
No Misha is a bad person who knows that she's bad and just doesn't want to change because clearly she doesn't care, right? She even pins it all on Charlie, he came on to me. I mean, yes, but also you were down.
She was ready.
You were down to cheat.
She
So that was just my
I like
when
it.
a movie has all these different archetypes of characters that are just like they share one trait, these ones are completely opposite. Like hopefully I explained that well.
Great.
That's where I just like couldn't stop thinking about this movie because they're all different archetypes. They're all on the same scale, but it's just to different degrees. And so to me, we've kind of glossed over Emma. I think we should talk about Emma because she's not the main character of the movie. It is mainly told through Charlie's perspective, but she is by far the most nuanced, complex character that there's the most to talk about there. And so I'll just start by talking about what actually happened to her character. Now, we are revealed, the details of this are revealed throughout the movie, but knowing the full picture, this is someone who, as a child, was left alone all the time. We see that both of her parents were never really home.
Right. Her dad was in the military. There's a shot in the movie where we see, her mom left her a note and some money for dinner. Yeah. And that's about it.
She's left home alone all the time. Her only friend, who was her neighbor, again, died in a car accident. We see that she witnessed the aftermath of it, which is very traumatic, very disturbing. Yes. Yeah. Did not receive any therapy, guidance, counseling, anything like that. And even as an adult, when Charlie brings this up to her, she's like, well, I was only 10. Why would I get therapy for that? And he's like, girl, what are you doing? But it's like these are things that you carry with you through your whole life, and she never unpacked any of it. She goes to school. Everyone understands what it's like to be in middle school, high school, all the different changes that happen, add on to everything that she's dealing with, plus being bullied, plus very clearly being an outcast.
I think she also mentioned, I don't know if you said this, that like they had recently moved there too, so she was the new kid.
I didn't catch that. I actually didn't even realize that. So she's the new kid.
She's the new kid.
Well, yeah, because dad's the military. That makes sense. I didn't catch that she had just moved there. But yeah, so like she's being bullied. And I think something that this movie focuses a decent amount on is like, well, guess what? Like if you live in America and you're a kid and you're being bullied and you're going through these very traumatic things, you see on the news every single day other kids who are just like you who decided to get revenge. Now, clearly I do not condone that, but I'm talking I'm talking about like that kid's perspective. You don't know any better. You feel all these horrible, awful things. You see other people who, like, if you feel like a loser and you see that other people who felt that way became infamous for what they did, and you get back at all the people who are hurting you, I understand why a kid could fall down that path. And the issue is what this movie kind of, to a degree, beats over your head a little bit. I don't think it gets too on the nose, but it's like, hey, the problem is not the kids. The problem is that these kids have access to guns. Why does a little girl or a little boy have access to her dad's rifle, clearly being neglected, clearly going through a lot of trauma, and she has access to this weapon that can kill many, many people far too quickly? That's the issue. And I think Robert Pattinson, when he's talking to Rachel and Mike at one point, kind of does say like, well, it's kind of an American thing. You guys kind of have this problem. It's worth noting that his character's British.
Yes. And in that scene, I'm on the Rachel hate train again. We're going to talk about, he's mentioning about, like you said, she was around guns and everything. And Rachel goes and says, my husband grew up around guns. And she says that.
Mike is black.
Mike is black. And she says that. And you see in the scene, he kind of looks at her.
She says, my husband grew around guns and he's terrified of them. And he's like, I didn't grow up around guns.
His uncle was a cop.
Yeah, he's like, my uncle was a cop, and I'm not terrified of guns.
Right, yeah.
And it's very clear that she just said that because he's black.
Because he's exactly. But I just thought that was also worth mentioning. It's just
and everything about Rachel. I have more smoke for her too. We'll get to that. But like, Robert Pattinson's character lays it all out, and I'm kind of all over the place. So like, it is what it is. But another scene that stood out to me. I saw people tweet about this, and I saw different interpretations of this. I want to see what your thoughts were.
Yeah.
There is a montage, I think, shortly after Charlie learns the truth about what almost happened, where you see him, and it's like a montage of him and the teenage version of his fiance just doing various things together. Him hugging her, like it basically could just be him and Zendaya, but it's replaced with the teenage version of her. I saw many different interpretations of that. To me, the way I looked at it is, he was almost wishing that he could go back in time and give that little girl a hug and give her the comfort that she clearly needed. I saw some people get some really weird, like Twitter's so stupid. I saw people get really weird with it. I saw people interpret it in some strange ways.
I saw one interpretation that I saw of it was like, it's kind of almost those scenes were added to make to make you notice, like, okay, this is kind of silly seeing them together because she has grown so much as a person.
Oh,
and, like,
yeah.
she's gotten
That's
more
a good
wise.
take, yeah.
Because it's like seeing them together. You see not
Yeah,
just
she's
the age
not
gap,
that girl
but you see
anymore.
like that. Yeah, that's not her anymore.
That's a good point.
I like that interpretation.
That's a good point. I hadn't considered that. To me, and that I love that interpretation too. They could both be true.
Right. Yeah.
To me, it was him like wishing that someone was there to care. Because like we see a very cute scene where he's talking. She's deaf in one ear, which is that's how they met. Like he's talking to her and she can't hear him, and he thinks that she's ignoring him. We end up finding out she's deaf in that ear because she was practicing shooting that gun for what she wanted to do. Recontextualizes everything around that and their story, and like this is where you see a lot of scenes where Charlie's trying to grapple with like, how do I marry this person this isn't who I thought I knew.
Yeah.
His wedding speech talks about the ear, talks about stuff like that, and all of a sudden it takes on a whole different tone and meaning. And so what was I about to say? The scene.
Were you going to talk about the scene with the ear?
Oh, yes, the scene with the ear. That's what it was. He's talking to the ear where she can't hear anything. And he's saying, like, I love you so much. I'm so afraid to lose you. And so clearly this is someone who he cares about so deeply. He's like, I would die if I lost you. And he finds out that she went through something traumatic. And I think that was him wishing, like, this is someone I love. I wish I could have been there for you back then so you wouldn't have felt that. Because Charlie, while he's going through a complete whirlwind of emotions, feeling many different things, he's afraid of her. He doesn't know what to think. Clearly he loves her. And he does have sympathy for that little girl who, at the end of the day, was traumatized and unfortunately had access to guns and was influenced by what she saw in the media. We find out later at the wedding when her dad's talking, he's like, yeah, she was super creative as a kid. She loved to act and all that. And theatrical,
characters.
Different characters. And early in the movie, I don't know if we talked about this, but early in the movie, she mentions herself rather early in the movie that, like, I think she was like, I just dressed up and like played with that gun and like thought about doing this because it like I felt cool playing that character. It made me feel cool. So it was almost a character to her.
Yeah. She was just that lonely. Lonely. And then you want to talk about what pulled her out of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, a very American thing.
Very American.
This is what I talk about when I say like you're almost like, am I supposed to laugh?
Yeah.
The reason why she did not shoot up her school that day, brought the gun, was going to do it. There was another mass shooting at the mall that day. And someone from her school was killed. Looked like a senior, so an older person. But this is something that I thought about the scene more and more, and it really stuck with me again, too, because we see that, and that obviously, like, her entire day changed. The entire plan changed. All of a sudden, there's an assembly. All of her peers around her.
They're doing exercise. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead. They're like devastated. They're doing exercises.
Yeah, for grief and everything. So, yeah.
It changes the whole vibe of her day. And there's an exercise they do where basically everyone stands up, walks around, and then when you see someone, you stop and you just stare at them. And Emma, as a kid, breaks down crying. And to me, I think she saw literally face to face what she almost did. Right. I think it clicked for her that these are real people. I'm not playing a character.
Yes.
She could feel the tension and drama, because, like, not to be dark, but like if you had anyone when you were in school pass away, a student, you feel it. Even if you didn't know that person, the school is mourning and you can feel it. And I think she felt that and realized that she almost brought that onto her school, because I don't think she was a bad person. Like, I don't think she was evil. I think she was just misled.
And I don't know. I think if I remember correctly, the first student that she does that exercise with was that girl that bullied her.
Was it the bully? I thought so, yeah. I wasn't entirely sure.
And like you said,
that's who she would have killed.
And they hug each other. Yeah, she was going to be the first one, I think, that she mentioned. So it's just, I thought that was really well done. It's
really powerful. Yeah. And we see, again, just like the real intention there, the real meaning. She was not an evil person, but she was lashing out, and she had no proper, healthy way.
No outlet.
The perfect word for that.
And no community.
Which ties in perfectly to, we end up seeing that she joins, like a school student group of activists who are anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment, want to actually make change. And she becomes the leader of that group. They're like, hey, we like you. We think you're a good speaker. Like, you have a good face for it. And she perks up. And we saw discussions about this where people are saying, and Rachel in the movie says this herself, but some of the discourse around the movie has said this too, where it's like, oh, well, Emma was kind of like a fraud for joining that group. It's so funny. What the irony of you joining that group? But I said it after the movie. I don't think, like, when you're 15, you don't really believe in anything yet. You're still kind of figuring out your worldview. And I think that was her moment where she figured it out. Like, I
Right.
don't think she was like super pro Second Amendment or anything before that. She was just a kid.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
now that she saw the effects of it face to face, and she also saw that she could have some community here, like, I think it was both. I think she found her community and friends, so she joined it for that reason. I also think she says in the movie that she woke up from a bad dream.
Yeah.
I think she also realized the damage that she almost did.
And you could tell it's not like it wasn't just a phase for her either, because her dad mentions in the speech that, like,
Yeah.
you know, she was doing that for so long that at one point she went to jail because of like a protest or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the
clearly
activism. The activism.
the activism. So,
and that's
yeah.
a really good point too that I wanted to mention when contrasting Rachel and Emma, because Rachel makes this big old, oh, I can't believe you almost did something so awful. My cousin was involved in a shooting, blah, blah, blah. And listen, we don't know what Rachel's done throughout her life, but it is never said, implied, or shown that she at any point went to a protest, did any activism. And so
she was not close to her cousin.
She was not even close to her cousin.
She was not.
Barely knew her, basically, we see later in the movie. And really, when you break it down, and we can kind of wrap up on this, when you break down the tangible, like, material effect that each of these people had, the 4 people that we've been talking about, Emma's the only one who did literally nothing.
Right.
She thought something horrible, but she did nothing. And I would argue she grew up and turned herself into a net positive on society for the way that she, from the activism to everything that Charlie writes about her at the start of the movie and his letter, is entirely true, because that's the person that he knows, and that's the person that she is. She's not that little girl anymore. And when you look at Rachel, it's all negative. Yeah. It's all horrible things that she's done, horrible the way that she makes other people feel, not actually doing anything to benefit anybody, just tearing other people down in an effort to bring yourself up. And again, Mike, the inaction, Charlie spiraling to do the worst thing that he's ever done, which is, I guess you could say, not having enough trust in the person that he loves. But that's what leads to that spiral, is not just trusting her. And so, do you have any last thoughts on any of that in the movie?
Something that just stuck out to me is, and it comes back to, you know, Emma throughout the movie does this kind of start over technique. She mentions it 3 times. So she mentions it in the beginning when they try to have their meet cute and it goes wrong. She tells him, like, do you want to do this over again? Do you want to start over? And they do that. In the middle of the movie, when we see, you know, Charlie is really just, he's a wreck. She suggests, hey, let's start over. Let's have a little, like, they're trying to have some nice together time. So they're trying to reenact, you know, like they're just meeting. And that doesn't work. He says it's corny. And then in the end, and I loved the ending of this movie. Can we talk about the ending of this movie for a little bit?
Eternal gunshine of the spotless mind.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. Talk about the ending.
So amazing. So we hear in the beginning of the movie, Emma, I believe, is the one who pitched that, you know, after the wedding, they should go to that diner, this diner by their house. And she was like, it's kind of like, you know, when actors win Oscars and they go to In-N-Out, yes. And like, they're all dressed up. She liked that idea. And Charlie was like, I don't know. In the end, after that mess of a wedding happens, he loses Emma. He doesn't know where she went. And so he's at home first, all alone, trying to figure out what to do. And we see him go to the diner, all bloodied, in his tux, going through it. He orders some food, and he sits down, hoping that Emma arrives. And I was so worried that we wouldn't see her show up. I honestly didn't think the diner scene was going to happen, but we do see her come in. And at first, you know, I think he just looks at her, and you think, oh my God, are they going to ignore each other? But then she goes and she sits down with him, and they start over. It's as if they met all over again. And I thought that was very well done.
Strangely hopeful ending for what was a very dark, tense, and uncomfortable movie. And just looking at my notes real quick, and I want to hit on this too, because I think it's important. That it's the theme throughout the whole movie. I would say it's maybe the core of the movie, is that gun control, this issue, mass shootings, all this stuff that's very dark, very hard to talk about. It's stuff that we don't want to talk about. It's stuff that we want to sweep under the rug. When Emma comes forward with what she did, even she has a violent reaction to it. Like a sick, ill, violent reaction. She throws up. No one wants to talk about it. Rachel wants to cut her off completely. Charlie isn't sure if he wants to still marry her. No one wants to talk about this stuff. And the reality is that people like Emma, especially kids, get swept under the rug. Society sweeps them under the rug. We don't want to talk about them. And it's really funny because people like Rachel make people like Emma feel like their existence is a crime. And that's even as an adult, but especially as kids. You feel like your existence is a crime. You do not belong. There's something wrong with you. And then when you combine all of that, which is human nature, like stuff like that happens, it's unavoidable. Apollo said, yeah. I'm going to leave that in. Apollo, buddy, I'm cooking. Your dad's making a good point. What I was getting at there is that when you take these very tragic things that have been happening to people forever, it's part of human nature. We can be really cruel to each other. But then you give those kids access to guns. That's where you get tragedy. That's where you get stuff like that that we see in this movie. And I think that this movie found a way to shock you with what Emma did. And I'll be completely honest with you. When we find out what Emma did, I was 100% on team Charlie. Get out of there. Leave her. Break up with her. Fly back to Britain. Like, get the hell out of this.
Michael beat her up.
I'll go beat her up. Like, get out of there. But now I look at it, I feel so sad for this character.
Yeah.
And I am so happy that they ended up together because it really did. Yeah. It wasn't her fault. And the last thing that I want to say is, like, when you look at Rachel, she kind of is the embodiment of she embodies the entire problem. The ignorance in this country, the individualism, the thinking that you're better than everyone. If someone does something wrong, that's their fault. Everything is everyone else's fault. If you're a troubled kid, you're just a weirdo who needs to leave me alone. And if you retaliate, then you're just an evil, bad person. And it's like, well, no, like, look at the conditions that lead someone to become that. And that's what this movie dives deep into. And I thought was just, again, super thought-provoking.
I agree 100% with everything that you said, and you reminded me actually of something. We're going to do another Fish Jelly shout out Fish Jelly. They also mentioned this in their review, that it kind of tackles with the whole, there's no room for healing. If we're not going to talk about this, if we're not going to take this head on, there's no room for people to heal, people that are going through these things, and to prevent these things from happening. You need healing. And so that's what that made me think of too. So,
people can change. I believe this, like, to my core. I believe people can change, and you have to give room for people to change. And again, like, this is an issue that it's not going away. It's not going away. And I'm not sitting here saying that we need to have sympathy with school shooters. That's not the point of the film. I don't think whatsoever. It is not to justify anything that they did, but it's to look at all of the people who didn't do those things, but are being swept under the rug and overlooked by society. And the reality is, when you give those people access to guns, like I said a bunch of times, that's where tragedy happens. And we got to get better as a society of being a community again, and looking out for each other, not villainizing each other, and
acting like you're above others when, like you said, you didn't go to any anti-gun protests and anything, and it's going on.
She's one of the most fascinating characters in this. Could you open that real quick? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Apollo is making himself the main character of this episode now.
I'm gonna cut that out.
I'm just gonna leave it in. It's easier. I think performative. The word performative, it's a theme in this entire movie. I think you could honestly argue, and this might sound crazy, but I think you could argue that Emma, what she planned on doing, was purely performative. Even she might have actually done it, but I think she was doing it for performative reasons. Her joining those anti-gun groups was performative. Everything that Rachel does in this movie is performative. But when you look at the tangible, material reality, the material results of what they did, Emma didn't do anything wrong.
No.
Rachel did a lot. Mike did a lot. Charlie did things wrong. And so that's just all my complicated thoughts. Hopefully I kind of articulated them somewhat well. Were there any other scenes that stood out to you? I know you had something with the poster that I didn't notice.
Oh, I almost leapt out of my seat when I saw this. So, as I'm sure you all saw, the poster, the main one for this movie, it's a picture of Rob and Zendaya, Charlie and Emma. They're sitting together, and we see Zendaya holding her hand like this to show off the ring, okay? Now, at some point in the movie, I think kind of early on, we see that picture, but it's not the same picture. No, we find out that the poster is edited to make it look like she's showing her hand like this. In the movie, it's actually a picture of her doing this to Charlie. And so I couldn't believe that happened. And we see it a couple of times, but I'm telling you, I nearly jumped out of my seat.
We see a bunch of examples of that, which we should have mentioned this earlier, but we'll sneak it in here real quick. This movie really plays with, we just see how much gun culture has embedded itself into our culture. Guns are everywhere, man. They're everywhere.
We see that mug
the mug that Charlie bought for himself.
Right.
We see the mug. We see he's an art director. They get an art book of just photography of models posing with guns.
I should touch on the coffee mug just in case.
People
would. Yeah. Just for a refresher, it's one where it's like, give me coffee or I'll shoot or something like that, and it has a gun on it.
And Charlie sees it and throws it away once he realizes that. We see loads of instances where your kid's screaming in the background all of a sudden, and Charlie's like, whoa, naturally you start thinking that. We see the DJ scene, which got our entire theater to jump. It sounds like everybody's theater jumped at that. There's like some feedback with the cord or whatever at the wedding. Sounds like a gunshot. Everyone immediately like jumps up. And the reality is that's where we are in this country. I think everyone feels that way. You go to a movie theater, you go anywhere, and you see a weird guy, you start thinking, what's about to happen? You hear a loud pop, you're thinking, what just happened? It's just the reality of this country, and I think this movie did a really good job touching on it in both some frightening ways and some comedic ways.
I think so too. Yeah.
Any last thoughts?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, I think obviously, as you can tell, we both really love this movie. Would highly recommend it. And so far it's my favorite of 2026. We'll see if and when that changes. Until next time, we got some more reviews coming up soon. So please subscribe, drop a like, and leave us a comment.
Please.
Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.